We are the Smithies of Stories 2, and we will keep you safe.
Why do they get to sit down?
Okay, I admit that was way less stupid in my head than it turned out to be. I'm so sorry. Hello, my fellow writers, and welcome to Stories 2. How are you settling in? Are you having a good time? Glad to hear it, hopefully. So, let's talk armor and weapons as you journey through the world of Stories 2. Now, of course, as always, you can get by wearing essentially anything that takes your fancy and wielding anything that essentially takes your fancy. I will say, however, that you don't need to go too crazy farming, because once you get to the end of the game, once you get to high rank, essentially everything you've owned up to that point becomes very, very obsolete. But again, the story is a long journey, probably 20 to 50 hours depending on how hard you go, so of course anything is viable, anything can be fun, and if you like the look of a piece of equipment, then yeah, give it a twirl, give it a whirl, probably wear it, actually probably put it on your body, don't just spin it around, fucking weirdo. But I am here to let you know if you want a nice, efficient, effective path to go through the game with minimal farming, minimal fuss, well, this is what I would recommend. Beginning with the starter island, max upgraded Kula Yaku is what I would do. Very easy to get, got a fantastic skill in the form of Dancer. Going first is always good, and you start every fight on full health, so it will be active, and the attack and defense is nice. This is the only time that I would recommend actually upgrading gear, because even ignoring the high rank endgame, every time you reach a new rarity of monster and thus a new rarity of gear, your old upgraded stuff will be in the rubbish pile, and yeah, you'll have wasted your time doing that, and a lot of the time the upgrade materials are quite finicky to get hold of. So yeah, Kulu on the starting island, and then we move on once you get to Alcala. For here, then, you will very quickly find yourself face to face with a Rambros, and he makes some very nice armor for you to be getting on with. It's got solid defense, and is got a nice little boost of health. Again, we're not really too fussed about skills, per se, or any niche build stories. You essentially want your numbers as big as possible as you're going through the story. Though that said, the skills will start to come into play a lot more as you get towards the end of the game, the end of the story, and things get harder. And it's at this point I should really give you a quick little rundown on how the armor actually works. It's fairly self-evident, of course, but it is worth mentioning. Every single armor will have a defense in which it is best at and a defense in which it is weakest at. So to take the Rambros that we are currently stopping by at, it is best at non-elemental. So if a Tigrex punches you in the face, then you'll have a good chance of surviving that. But, however, if you get set on fire, its weak point, well, that's going to hurt. However, this doesn't mean that when it comes to ice, thunder, water, and dragon, it's just useless. It's a paper towel. No, it's still got solid defense for its level of armor in those categories. It's just not what it's best at, which is physical. So technically speaking, yeah, if you know what you're going to fight, you want to just whack on the highest defense in the element of the monstie that you're struggling with to give you the best advantage, but you don't know what's coming up. So unless you're failing over and over on a fight, which is fair enough, some of them can be quite tricky, a lot of the time I would recommend just non-elemental as high as possible, because most monsters, most of the time, will hit you with non-elemental attacks. So yeah, quite the basic yet robust armor system that you don't need to really think too much about, at least not until we get to endgame super late builds. Then we move to the frosty peaks of Lalaska and Kuan Village. And don't worry, I will keep this as spoiler-free as possible as we go through the journey here. Nothing that will come as any kind of... Oh, now I know there's armor in the game! You are very much safe. Here then, well, there's only one thing to do. We want Kezu armor, chiefly because it comes with self-healing. It's got solid defense, but getting that boost of health every single turn really adds up when you're playing this war of attrition against some of the boss fights. It's really, really nice to have. Kezu also comes at a nice point where your Rambros is starting to feel a bit too weak, but you've still got a good chunk of the frosty zone to go. Following that then, we have Lemur the Desert, and this is where armor starts to get, well, actually quite good, with a lot of decent skills. So here you have two main choices. I would recommend that you go with Tigrex, as it has a really, really solid defense, along with Head-to-Head Master, which is really good. Having your Kinship Gorge fill up faster means more ride, means more damage, but also easier time surviving, and generally, if you've got endless supply of Kinship, you're going to have a wonderful time. Also, getting the little defense boost is generally quite nice. My only exception to this is I would recommend, if you favor the Gunlance, to get the Celtis armor. It's basically tailor-made for the Gunlance, comes with a fantastic set of skills for it, and is utterly perfect, and really is going to be very hard to replace. So that is quite nice to have. And then there is a choice to make. And by the way, in terms of Tigrex armor, once you have essentially finished the Frost area, you can go back to Alcala and get to the Royal Tigrex and, well, beat him at this stage, which will get you on your path to that Tigrex armor. So that's a very nice way to instantly give yourself a step up. Now you'll notice through none of this have I recommended bottle cap armor yet, because simply it's not really needed at this stage, and the bottle caps will come more in handy buying various bits and bobs at endgame, like stimulants for your monstie's genes. So, then we have a, as I said, decision to make. Keep the Tigrex all the way to near the end of the game, or do a little stopgap in Ponmare Garden. I personally chose to do the stopgap in the form of Mizutsune armor, simply because, well, I mean, I really, really liked how it looked, and it was a fair bump in defense. The Synchronize is absolutely fantastic, as double attacks will be your bread and butter, and having them hit hard is wonderful. I've also had the Evasion come in absolutely clutch, where I dodge an attack that would utterly obliterate me, and I've had my last heart be saved by a lovely last-minute dodge, and generally it is very, very useful in the right situation. And it looks lovely, and it's from a new monster in Stories 2, and you probably want to get a baby Mizutsune anyway, so yeah, you'll be coming into contact with them as you progress in this lovely, lovely petal garden of possums. Possums? Blossoms! Not the trees! They're full of possums! Oh my word. Then, finally, we will reach the final settlement. And this time, I'm not even going to tell you the name of it. I am not going to give you any kind of spoilers on that front. But I will say, once you get here, your bottle cap merchant will upgrade once more, as he does with every new town that you make it to. And this time, you do want to actually use him, because you want to get the Borealis armor. This Lao Shanglong setup is just wonderful. It is fantastic. Again, the evasion ability is really, really nice for the same reason it was with Mizutsune, but you also get yourself colossal defense, along with even more defense when you're low, and the critical L, which is really good for damage output. You will find yourself critting a lot. And this is on par with essentially every armor set you will now have available until the end of the game. There really is no need to upgrade until high rank. It's perfect. As soon as you get here, buy this for minimal bottle caps, of which you'll have plenty from your evidence, and you are good to cruise to the post game and high rank. I personally side graded to Basil armor because it works really well with greatswords specifically, like Celtis did for Gunlance, but that's by no means necessary. gameplay. So that's the general journey I would recommend for you for minimal time, minimal farming, minimal fuss, and minimal difficulty as you progress through the game. Talismans wise, well, again, what is worth buying from the bottle caps is a critical L or a kinship L talisman when they get unlocked once you reach the final settlement. They're both very good. Other than that, there's nothing critical that you need to buy or farm or find. If you can get a den protector talisman, so monsties retreat more often and you can farm new buddies on the way easier, that's quite nice, but there's nothing that's gonna be like, oh, if only I had that. Just use what you think sounds fun, what you have that's best. And honestly, that applies to the weapons too. Generally, you want to always upgrade weapons as your rarity increases, because again, the raw number is what we're after here, get the best of each of the three that you currently favor. But other than that, you don't need to go crazy element matching or anything along those lines, though of course you can, but you mostly just want to be making sure that your weapon is of equivalent rarity to the monster that you're currently fighting. And then if you have the luxury, the want, or the time, then yes, element match, because it does add a significant amount of damage. And of course, there's also interplay between bows of statuses, hammer that chases them, or hunting horns for songs that'll really give you an edge. And on that note, there is two heavy recommendations here. Once you beat Nagakuga, make the Nagakuga hunting horn, and ideally use it as your blunt option. The reason for that is its song list is absolutely incredible, and swapping to it, doing a few rounds of buffing, then going back to your preferred weapon is utterly ridiculous. To put it into perspective, it has Bloodsuck, which makes all of you and your allies get healing from the damage that you deal, and this is essential immortality outside of one-shot attacks, which happen very rarely. You also get a load of crit on everyone for a good 5 turns, and then you can also give everyone elemental attack 2, and essentially make everyone absolutely juggernauts. That's really, really cool. Now, you can also go the healing route with a song set like when you get the Palumu horn fairly early on, which will give everyone a big boost of healing from soothing sounds, give everyone healing over time from Metal Overture, and generally, eventually, you will unlock a side quest to get you the ability to give everyone one free evasion on the next attack, which is really powerful. I honestly think the game is much easier and better with a horn over a hammer to just keep amazing songs going. And eventually, and I'm still using it, when you reach the final town, the Diablos horn. This has Awakening, which gives everyone attack, defense, and crit. Along with just a huge defense buff too in Iron Defense, this has made me and the battle buddies tank attacks that we really shouldn't be tanking, and has been absolutely clutch in winning a lot of fights. So yeah, I would heartily recommend Palumu or Nagakuga, depending on if you want more healing or more offense, and then eventually going to the Brachydios Hunting Horn and using Hunting Horn in that middle slot as your, well, buffing weapon, and then killing monsties with a pierce and slashing weapon, as you will very rarely come up against anything that is resistant to both of those on every single part. Oh, alright then, that is my basic rundown on the armor and weapons, what you're generally aiming for, what it's all about, and you just, as I said, don't need to think too much about it, certainly not till Endgame. That is your general overview. It's just a very solid system, and there are generally lots of armor skills to play with, lots that work with specific weapons, and you might see something that's perfect, in which case, go for it. I just wanted to show you the path of least resistance through the game, and I think it's one that is quite effective. I cannot wait to get into actual proper builds though and bring you those too. There's some very, very exciting skill combinations we can pull off, especially if you find the right talisman. For now though, I hope you are having a great time progressing through, I hope you found this useful, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Like if you did, subscribe for more, please consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.